Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. All right, we are back with Season 2 of As the Tire Turns. I'm joined today with Jeff Young, VP of, or Vice President, Rema Tip Top OTR and Retread Products. Is that?
That works.
Okay.
That works. A lot more than I do.
Yeah. All right, perfect. And actually, I'm happy to be here because we have tried multiple times to potentially get this done, but the most recent one, I think your daughter was going into labor and had another grandchild on the way, right?
Stevie Rae Dahlgren.
There you go.
There you go.
Exactly. So, as I'm looking at our new set for the season, we'll be back here for more episodes.
Oh Lord, bring another attendee.
Yeah. But I'm looking at a guitar case. So, guitarist fan or music fan, I take it.
I play a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't name the baby though.
No.
But the Stevie Rae, is there a connection to the musician or the guitarist, Stevie Rae Vaughan?
A little bit. Ray is actually her husband's grandmother's name, R-A-E.
Okay.
But of course, we're from Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth. Stevie Rae Vaughan, man.
Okay.
All the way.
All right, so
Yeah.
I am going to talk a little bit about your Texas roots, but
Okay.
You and I go way back, right? So as you know, I launched this. I'm since now no longer president of T. I'm past president, and so there were a handful of people we hope to get to in the first season. So we're doing a shorter season, not shorter. We're going to still stretch it out over a year, but 12 episodes instead of 24. And but you were one of the people when we first thought of the idea that I said, you know, one of the first people I met probably when I sat down with Mike Barra. I remember him talking about Harvey Brodsky and saying one of the first people as he was young coming up in the industry, that first people that kind of treated him like an adult, right? You know, and I guess at 6'7", people probably treated me like an adult since I was 12. But,
Yeah.
But I mean, you just treated me like everybody else, and heck, it was, I think, that 1994 NATSO, right, truck stop
Right.
show. So I'd have been 20 years old, right? I hadn't even turned 21 yet.
You hadn't even married Kelly yet.
Hadn't even married Kelly. Kelly did visit with me on the,
Right.
because I was like, man, a week in Vegas for like a 3-day show. Okay, right? You know?
Free booth chick.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
So, and you and I have told that story a number of times. I don't know if that show still goes on.
I hadn't been to it.
Yeah, I haven't either. I know people would not know this about you. We'll get into the Rema Tip Top and well, actually, let's do that first. How did you get into the tire industry? Because nobody in high school, right, especially in Texas, did you play football?
Yeah.
Okay, I know
Track.
ran track as well.
Yeah. Well, ran.
Thrower?
Yeah, I was a shot putter.
Yeah, okay.
And a javelin and discus.
Okay, so you did. So
Got a scholarship to a very small school, but it was, it helped.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have, because my daughter threw discus, I think it was discus, maybe it was, I think it was discus, but they had a technique called the South African.
Wow.
Did you?
That was post
That was
Me,
after you.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, back then there was two big stars, Randy Matson, who did it the traditional way, and then a guy named Al Feuerbach who did the spin.
Right.
And I couldn't do that. I was too uncoordinated, but I could do the other way,
Yeah.
which probably limited my success.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Nonetheless, though. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so as you're on the football field or in the track and field, right, you're probably not thinking, I'm going to sell a whole bunch of little pieces of rubber right over the years.
No, no, I didn't do it. You know, it's funny because I was actually on a job interview. I was looking for a job. I flew to Atlanta to interview with Delta, and they had offered me a position while I was there. I was in a suit and tie, man. I was, you know, most people that watch this never see me in a suit and tie. But anyway, so I get on the plane, and it happened to be the day that Delta flight crashed in Dallas. So they left us on the runway for 4 hours.
Wow.
Pretty creepy. But I'm sitting next to who would eventually become my boss, a man named Tom Wood, and Mac McQuistion, who was the president of Longmile Rubber Company. So I'm just chatting with them, or actually with Tom, and he said, so what are you out here for? And I told him the scoop. I said, you know, I've been offered a position. Told him I was going to go home and talk to my wife, you know, pray about it and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, we just left our strategy meetings and we're looking for a guy in Dallas to be a marketing coordinator. And I said, well, I'm not even sure what that is. But I said, he said, well, you have a resume? And I said, well, yeah, I'm here for a job interview.
I was going to say, at that point, you had it printed, right?
Dude, I had 3 of them, and I gave them to all of them.
Yeah.
And, oh, yeah, Chuck Smelker was there, too. But anyway,
this is all on the plane.
All sitting, waiting to take off in Atlanta. So they begin to, you know, play leapfrog into the chair next to me. I was in the 2 seat. And so I'm just sitting there, and before we get to Dallas now, and it's give or take a nickel, couple hours, plus the 4 hours, I get to Dallas, and Tom said, man, we'd like to have you come work for us. And I said, well, tell me again what it is. You could pay me money.
Right.
You make enough money to pay me selling retread rubber.
Right.
I didn't even know what a retread was.
Right.
So anyway, long story short, I went home and my wife said, what?
You left going to work for Delta.
She said, what about the free flights? I said, I don't know, it's more money. Right now I'm broke, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was the last time I could say I'm in the rubber business for more money. But so I took the job, went to work. He said, when do you want to go to work? I said, well, it's Tuesday. I could be there in the morning, you know. I mean, I need a check.
Yeah.
And so I started work in December of 90. So I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So, and then what brought me to Rema was Goodyear had bought us and sold us, and they sold us to a competitor, Oliver Rubber
December
Company.
90, though.
Yeah.
Because it's actually not, I would have
I'm sorry, 80.
December 80, okay.
80.
I was going to say, I thought it had been longer.
Because it's 45 years for me in this business.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I just turned 70. I have a memory issue. Yeah, Goodyear sold the company to a competitor, and I tried, and it didn't work. I didn't care for them.
So Longmile was
purchased by Oliver from Goodyear.
Okay.
And Oliver's still around, part of the Michelin Group.
Yeah.
And so Mr. McQuistion and Tom went to Rema to start running Rema. It was called Ramaco back then. And he called me. I was in Louisiana, and he said, man, you got to come over here. I got 6 salespeople, and I don't know how to pronounce their names. They're all from the Northeast, Petrovitz and Cradaville and all these people. And I said, oh, my gosh. So I took the job in Alexandria, Louisiana, and quit on Friday and started working Monday.
No kidding.
And the Rema became Myers Patch Rubber, and then back to Rema because of Olaf Gunnarsson.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned a name, and I could be way off, but I feel like I remember, and maybe he was a Rema guy, but a Jonathan McQuiston? Any relation?
No.
Or no?
It's actually McQuiston. He's passed now, but he ended up after Rema, he moved to Alabama and took over Robbins Rubber. He was he was really big into purchases, and was an accounting background. He's a great guy. He was good to me. Tom Wood became like he was my boss, but my friend. He's a great guy, and I attribute a lot. Not that I have a lot to attribute to him, but he was the guy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well,
Kind of different.
Well,
and then I came back around to Rema again, so I'm a double dip on Rema. So in more ways than one, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we've had that as well, right? And I guess that's a good thing, right? I always say, hey, and I've had people who've left and whatever they went off to do, right? Either just decided to come on back, and I said, well, it's a testament to, right, leaving on good terms, and
sure.
And I recognized early in my career that I said, boy, you see a lot of the same people, but the different logo on the shirt. Of course, I didn't ever think I'd be one of those guys, but then I was as well, right?
Yep.
So, I cut my teeth.
We're retreads.
Yeah, retreads, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So, oddly enough, my mom, when she worked in construction and so on in for a company that built frozen storage and so on. But then when we moved to Florida, at that point she had actually gone back to school and was getting a degree in like elder care and so on. And so at our church, she started like an activity group for the seniors and people who were shut-ins, I guess, right, didn't get out much, and so on. And so she, they came up with the name. This is way before I was in the tire, but they were the Jolly Retreads. So then when I got into the tire industry, I was like, hey, because I didn't know what a retread was either, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea, and then I got to know Harvey Bronsky, and at which point you knew what a retread was, right? And
more than you wanted.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
So, all right. So Longmile. So I was going to ask, because I scribbled down Lodi, because I knew there was a tread company. Was that another company
They made.
Or did they make the molds?
Equipment, the molds.
Okay.
And they even got into some pre-cure at one point. One of the guys that worked at Longmile was an ex-Lodi guy named Ron Connect. Great guy. Funniest guy, man.
Yeah.
He was so much fun to work with.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I've always resonated with you, right? So go back to now, 1994. Right, and I'd only been at the company for less than a year, and there's a show out in Vegas, and my first trip to Las Vegas, and at the time, you were kind of penalized if you didn't stay over Saturday night, and so company bought me a ticket, and it included hotel. We would, on the cheap again, you'd buy vacation packages. Yeah.
Yep.
So I stayed at the Rio, right? Which at that time was one of the newer properties, and was there, and like I said, that show was, I feel like midweek, maybe like a 2-hour reception the first night, and then a full day of a show, and then a half day. So here I am, 20 years old, and actually Kelly did come with me because she was older. I couldn't rent a car.
Yeah,
right.
I remember that.
And so I was 20, right? So she was at least 21, could rent a car. So we came out, but the Golden tool. The TNT 100 was brand new, and I don't know that we were even delivering tools yet. It had come out the year before, and we would go and show and write orders and so on. And that first year I would field phone calls from people saying, where's my order? I ordered this months ago. And so on. But people who know you, which is a lot obviously, think of you as selling rubber. Nobody thinks of you as a tool sales guy, but
they just don't know me that well.
Well, early on, right, because none had been delivered, you could probably say at one point in your career, you were one of the top Golden tool salesmen.
It's funny because when I think about you, I think about, number one, the Travelin Havoline Fishing Show.
Yeah, also
which
at that
was
show.
the guy at the show, and then
But that was a tractor trailer
with glass walls, and you could see the guy fish and
gallons
show you
and gallons of water.
Oh my Lord!
I mean, I had to fill it with a hydrant.
Mercy, it was crazy. And then, so you and Kelly were going to go eat.
Yeah.
And I watched you change this super single with that tool. I've never touched it in my life. You said, hey, if we go eat, can you handle everything? I'm like, yeah, of course. So sure enough, you didn't even hardly walk off 10 minutes, and this dude walks up from Texas and owns 7 truck stops. He said, what's that tool do? I said, it changes tires. He goes, well, let me see you do it. It took me, I don't know how long, because they had eaten lunch and come back. And this guy's still standing there with 3 or 4 of his guys. And I think I did it, but it took about 45 minutes. And I said, man, I'm just so sorry. I wish the guy that ran this tool was here. He said, no, I'll take 7 of them. He said, if you did it, my guys will kill with this thing. I'll take 7 tools. You're an idiot, and you got it done, so I'm in.
Yeah.
So that was my foray into tire tools.
That was it, and I remember.
But that's a memory I'll never forget.
No, I won't either. And,
especially seeing you laughing at me behind the crowd who had gathered to say, "What is this guy doing?"
Yeah. Those are some.
Oh my gosh.
Those are some good.
But that's when I first got to know Kelly, and you were down there with the book, the lady that wrote Harlequin novels or something.
Don't even tell me why I remember that name, Cat Martin.
Cat Martin, was it.
Because Kelly would read the historical romance or whatever, and she was an author, I guess, trying to sell her, little kiosk for the truck stops or whatever. I mean, it was, again, I think that might have been the only year I've ever been to that show. It was a different show because they had concession people, they had anything and everything you'd find at a truck stop. So, yeah, that's funny.
It is funny.
And switching to and then of course at that point you would not have been with. It's funny because I get confused, and especially with some of the transactions that have taken place in the past few years. I hear a name, and I have to think, what company do they work for? Because it's not the same as where they used to work, and
right.
And of course, we sell a lot of distributors, and so both Tuffy and Mohawk were acquired by Myers Tire Supply, but then some people went off to other companies and so on, right? So, but anyway, I'm trying to think. I feel like Roger Kelly.
Yeah.
Was with you. You would have been with Patch, right? Because
right.
I think we were in a Myers booth,
right?
And I was just, we supplied the tool to Myers, and
right.
So I was demonstrating. But I think Roger Kelly eventually also went to REMA.
Yep, he did.
So you would have been at Patch at that point. And you were probably living in Roanoke
and Fort Worth.
Okay, so you were in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I didn't move to North Carolina till 2000.
Okay.
Yeah. Got my own train too. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I moved out there in 2000, and I think Roger had just gone to work for Patch. He ended up leaving and going to REMA, and I had been at REMA obviously, and then that's where I first met Olaf.
Right.
And basically, he tried to get me to come back, and I finally did, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff happens.
Stuff does happen.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny. Olaf, I always say, is one of those people in the industry. I don't know too many people in our industry, but Madonna, Cher, whatever. I don't know what Cher's I guess I don't know what Madonna's last name is either. But Olaf is the same thing. Anyone in the industry, you can say
knows him as Olaf.
Probably because there's not a whole lot of Olafs either. But you just immediately who you're talking about, what person, and super.
What's funny? And at REMA we had 2 Olafs.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be the second Olaf.
Yeah. You'll never add up. No.
Tough shoes to fill.
Yeah. He's another one of those guys that made a difference in my life, but he was so funny. I'd gotten frustrated with Myers and some of the things going on, and I remember seeing Olaf in Essen. He was standing at getting a hot dog or a Wiener Schnitzel
or
whatever it was.
Bratwurst.
And he goes, "Oh, hey, Jeff," and I'm like, "Hey." He goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, Look, I'm kind of not real happy right now, so I said maybe we can catch up later. And he said, "What's up?" And I said, I hate to say this, Myra's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, we definitely are going to talk then." he put his Coke down or beer or whatever it was, and put his arm around me. "Let's go sit down and talk." And I'm like, "Oh boy,
Yeah,
there we go."
yeah. Seize the moment.
Yeah, seize the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's doing great still. He's just a great guy.
absolutely. Yeah, and he have you been to Iceland then?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say I know. Right, he'll a lot of times do a trip and
We've had some fishing trips over there and stuff like that.
Correct.
It's a beautiful country.
I was going to say
Very different. Not
Yeah.
a lot of trees. But, there isn't any trees. No, I'm kidding. I think there was one. But it's a beautiful place. People are incredible.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
It's one of those trips you'll never forget.
Yeah, and so I've not been, right? I've been all over the world, had to send pages in or get passport in to get pages added and,
Oh, yeah.
and so on, but have never made it to Iceland. But I have to ask, right, because there's certain things that are synonymous with certain countries and cultures and so on. And I guess maybe in the moment, depending on how much I had drank, maybe I would. But did you eat the shark, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It smelled horrible. And they can say, "Well, you need to do what when in Rome, do what the Romans do." I said, "I'm not eating stinky, rotted shark. I'm not going to do it."
Which is basically like they take the shark and bury it in the sand or something, and it ferments. Is it?
It's vile. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
negative on the shark. Okay.
It's same as the stuff in Australia. They,
A seafood in Australia or no? Is
I
it
can't remember, but it's a again. I'm going to put it in the vile category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you just made me think of. I don't remember what it was. I know in Mexico, they had a dish or an appetizer starter or something. It was ants or crickets or something
Yeah.
like that. And I
Yeah.
figured, well, hey, whatever. It's on the menu. I'll try it, right? And
Right.
there was no breading or anything. Like you saw them, like it was like
Oh,
they
yeah.
were sautéed
Yeah.
and whatever. Thankfully, I think there was like the queso fundido or something. I smothered it in cheese, whatever. But
Yeah.
I also had something else, and it's the only time I ever remember doing this, and I don't remember what it was, but I had to get up and walk, right, find the restroom or whatever.
I wish I could say I've never had to do that because
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, so you and I both travel far corners, and I know with your time at Patch, right? There was maybe a joint venture, I think, with
India. Quick Patch.
Quick Patch over in India,
Right.
our buddy Subbu.
Cebu.
And so, but again, kid from Fort Worth, right? Is there somewhere in particular that sticks out that says like, where either you're in the moment and you're just thinking like, I got to pinch myself. How did I get here, from a good or a bad place, right?
Oh.
Because I've been on the hillsides right near the Venezuelan border in Colombia,
Right.
and thinking like, how the heck did I get here, right? Just visiting mine sites,
Absolutely.
and so on. But have you had any of those? Anything
I've
stick
had
out?
probably
particular?
3 of those. I grew up. I saw Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer chip a ball over the Great Wall of China, and I said, I've got to go see that. And I actually was in China.
You didn't see that. You saw it on TV or whatever. Yeah.
Wide
Okay.
World of Sports
Yeah,
or whatever
and-
it was.
And
I
you
thought,
said, I got to go see Great
I've
Wall.
got to see that.
So it's Beijing,
And-
right?
And right outside of Beijing, the wall I went to was Badaling, and I was just mesmerized by the place. Then another thing like that was going to Moscow and seeing the Kremlin and
Yeah.
walking through there.
Yeah.
And the third is probably New Zealand, and it's probably for a bunch of reasons. Number one, it's one of the prettiest places I've ever been. And then I ended up with a really dear friend,
Anthony?
Anthony Neal.
Yeah.
And Ant's been a buddy of mine now for 30 years.
Yeah.
And we still get together.
Yeah.
I don't think he doesn't buy a thing from me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care. You didn't either, and we were always friends.
Yeah,
So
correct.
I couldn't sell my friends. But New Zealand, China, probably in Russia
Yeah.
were 3 places you didn't think you'd ever be. India, I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it glad I don't now.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's a difficult trip.
Yeah, I've been there as well, and that is one of those moments, right, where I just remember being in the back of a taxi and just seeing, right, some things, and even just really just kind of observing and watching and just the local area, right. I was maybe on the 10th floor, right, of a nice hotel, but you look out kind of in the city, people starting their day at 5 a.m. and just realizing how very different, right, and.
I mean, I showed up at the airport when we landed at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I couldn't even see the parking lot from the people that were just out there.
Yeah.
It was just crazy.
Yeah.
I remember staying in one in Satara. It was the best hotel in Satara, they told me.
Yeah.
It was $7 a night.
That's insane.
And I'm going to tell you right now, with the horse blanket and the hole in the floor in the bathroom, wasn't that nice? And then to add food poisoning to that,
yeah.
It was a difficult day.
And is that because no pasteurized milk or something
Yep.
like that? Yeah.
Yep.
Again,
I don't put milk in my coffee, and for that reason there,
Yeah.
I'll never do it again.
Well, it's funny. I remember you telling me that story, and even I think of you and I think of that when you're in places where they'll tell you that the water quality could be suspect and only drink bottled water or whatever but simply getting a salad that might have been rinsed in, lettuce may have been rinsed in water or something like that. So I mean,
yeah. Ice cubes.
Yeah, correct, right? Only
Yep.
drink a chilled bottle or something like that. So,
You know me. I'm not a big consumer of alcoholic beverages.
yeah,
When I'm in India, I drink beer.
because it's
Well,
yeah,
I'm just trusting the alcohol, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you on one of those trips coming back from Russia had one of the coolest gifts that I don't know if it was pre or post 9/11, right? But either way, you almost didn't get it back through. And
Right.
did you end up with it or no?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was Andrei Belenko was the owner of the company, Triton.
Yeah.
I wanted a cool gift. I said, you never know when you're going to go to Russia.
Yeah.
So that night, he took me downtown. It was dark, Moscow at night in December. It was just kind of yucky. And I see this guy standing under a street light with this wooden case.
I thought you were going to tell me twirling an umbrella or something.
And I'm
that.
like, and he pulls up, and the guy puts it in the car with Andre. He said, "Here's your gift."
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm not going to talk about Andre. He's a cool guy. But he had weapons around the house and stuff like that. So I'm like going, oh my gosh, he gave me a gun. How do I get this home?
Yeah.
So sure enough, it was a wooden box with latches and gate locks on it and all this. And I open it up, and it's a crystal AK-47 full of vodka.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I got it when I got to the airport in Russia. They think it's cool. They thought it was so cool.
Absolutely.
So I just carried it on like a briefcase. And
Yeah.
LaGuardia was not as excited about it. I show up, and I'm trying to tell the guy as you go through customs coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, I need to tell you what I've got in this. He said, just put it on the box, on the
Conveyor. or
conveyor
whatever.
belt. I said, and I was trying to explain it again, and I won't tell you exactly what he said, but it was more emphatic to put it on the belt.
Yeah. I don't care what. Yeah.
And so
Keep the line moving.
it is leaded crystal. So the picture looked pretty graphic. So apparently they thought I didn't like my tennis shoes or anything, but I'm sure they thought I was the terrorist Reed or something.
Yeah.
And they hauled me off and started telling me you can't bring guns in. Of course, I'm arguing with them. It's not a gun.
Yeah.
It's alcohol. And he said, well, you can't bring toys either. It's not a toy. Well, how do you know it's vodka? Because it says vodka.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, after nearly 2 hours, I missed my flight to Raleigh. And I'm still sitting there. And by then, I'm now being a complete inappropriate person myself. And I just said, no wonder we have so many problems with idiots like you running the security.
Oh boy.
And he told me to pick up my stuff and get the heck out of his face.
Yeah.
Because I knew what he was going to do. He was going to keep it.
Yeah.
And it was a gift.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that's been around.
Yeah.
It was probably the coolest thing I ever got from my travels, I guess.
Yeah, we had a friend of my daughter's, Kristen, who's in law school, become an attorney. We went to New York, and I guess maybe we had changed terminals or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we were going through security, and I had been carrying in my briefcase a valve stem puller, right? But I guess it had like a metal rod inside, and so anyway, God, and I mean, I don't know, we might pay $1 for it, right? $1.50 or whatever, right? So guy kind of pulls it out, right? You know, and I just know, he's like looking and kind of looking around. I say, hey man, I said, I'm sorry. I said, you just throw it away. He's like, you're not supposed to have this. But he's like, it's okay. And I'm like, wait a second.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah. I was headed to Singapore, and I got just abused going through what then was not TSA, but basically that.
Yeah, right.
And I sit down in my seat finally, and I'm madder than whatever.
Yeah.
This lady sits down beside. Oh, it's because I had a Swiss Army knife, about that little bitty tiny one.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even have cut myself.
No,
with it,
right.
But anyway, so I sit down. The lady sits down across the aisle from me, and I notice she is knitting with knitting needles. And
12 inches long. Yeah.
And the lady came up to me, the stewardess, or I'm sorry, flight attendant.
Yeah, yeah.
And said, can I help you? And I said, how in the heck?
Right.
She said, well, they're not dangerous. I said, I guarantee I could shove that through your skull.
Sir?
It did, yeah.
I found you another flight.
Yeah, you have a parachute because you're getting off.
Yeah.
But I was a tad frustrated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it doesn't always add up. Back in the day,
knitting
again,
needles.
my mom, I remember, and again, completely random, but this is when you used to be able to accompany people to the gate.
Oh yeah.
Before, right? But they would initially with security, they would do gate checks, right? Random, and they'd pull. And so it was actually she was Australian, right? Mentioned that, but she was our aunt, and so she married uncle. Anyway, didn't matter. But regardless, like was moving to live with her sons up in D.C. area, and it was I don't know, she was an 88-year-old woman that I don't think stood 5 foot tall, and she got pulled for the secondary screen and the full pat down, go through everything, and
been there, done that.
And you're just thinking, really? I mean, I know you don't want to have bias or whatever, but I feel like the 89-year-old 4'10", right?
Oh well, yeah, she's pretty scary.
Yeah. Anyway,
Vegemite.
I
don't know why I just thought of Vegemite, but there it is.
Yeah, so
the Australian staple.
So now I'm going to tell you because and when they hear, I guess I probably could have said VB because Victoria's bitter, because everybody that I know, like they all, of course, Americans, right, Foster's or whatever, right? They saw that beer's crap or whatever, and so the Australians will try and win you over. So I don't like things that are real hoppy, but I'm not even sure where VB fits in there. But you're right. I went down to Australia and stayed with Jeff Highgate. I don't know if that name means anything to you, right?
Yeah.
From previously Industrial Tire Supply and Victoria Wheel Weight, but he says I'm not putting you in a hotel. He says the wife, the son's gone. He says I got a whole home to myself, and and it was a massive ranch home, right? And so he says you won't even know him on the other side, right? And so he had me try, which I think is it like a yeast or something, and anyway, so he had me try some. He says you got to take some home. So I brought it home, and actually it might be about the only thing that I've ever posted on YouTube. I think it's just kids eating Vegemite or something like that, where my kids, probably 20 years ago, right, I brought some back, and told them put some toast, and they, of course, thinking it's like honey butter because it's like the consistency or color, and you can see it kind of
taste like honey.
But then it gets on the taste buds or whatever, and yeah, you're right, Vegemite. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
It was not good.
That's an acquired taste, I guess.
And
So.
which they told me you just need to eat enough of it, you'll get used to it. I don't eat things that taste horrible to where someday I'll like them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Sorry. No thanks.
So, sit down here. We've had, only because we've gotten along so well and traveled in the same circles. We've enjoyed many a dinner, told many a story, mostly true. And I as I was sitting there thinking about a couple of things, I'm like, that might not be the best story to tell, right? And so on. But now I'm going to bring up something actually controversial.
Oh, good.
So you being a Cowboy fan, if you could pick like just the primary positions, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, top Cowboys in your opinion. I feel like who in my book, and I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm an Eagles fan. So, right, I know about the Cowboys because we hated them, right?
Same way for me.
Yeah.
Bill Berge. Yeah. My favorite quarterback's probably Roger Staubach.
Okay, that's what I was thinking because,
he was a great guy. He's
Yep.
unbelievable business person.
Yep.
And a good man. Obviously, my favorite coach would have been Landry.
Okay.
Favorite running back was probably... I have so many of them, but
that's the one that's a toss-up. I think modern era, you think Emmitt Smith because
I loved Emmett.
Tony Dorsett also is that.
Tony, I liked Herschel because I met him and he was a good guy.
Okay.
But
New ambassador.
there was a
to
fullback.
Bahamas.
Walt Garrison was always a guy that I loved. He's
Okay.
just tough and wide receiver. I mean, as controversial as he is, Michael Irvin was just
Okay. I was going to say, I wonder, like
Bob
Drew
Hayes.
Pearson.
Yeah, but I grew
okay.
up with all of that, so it's hard to say. It's like, which one of your daughters is your favorite?
Oh, easily. No.
Yeah, we're not going there. A little bit different, but I actually had been around a few of them, and it is cool.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate because I love the Cowboys. I'm a homer. I love the Rangers. I love the Stars, and I love the Mavericks.
Yeah.
But I don't like professional sports anymore.
Yeah.
They just drive me nuts.
Yeah. This is switching gears a little bit, right? But so Patch Rubber was part of Myers Industries, but on the tire repair, your customer was almost exclusively Myers Tire Supply, right? I mean,
on the distribution end, but then we did other things.
I know you had like the traffic markings and other areas.
Well, the international part of Myers, I would say half my business was Myers and the other half was other stuff.
But you certainly worked with the Myers guys, which some of those
Absolutely.
Some of those in the old days of the branches, some of those guys were in those seats for 25 and 30 years.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
So Bill Alcorn, I think always, in Houston, I think poker. I know he loved to play poker.
Oh man.
But then that brings me back to Dallas, Freddie Brodsky, right, who I think used to play some card games with Staubach or something. Did you know that? And I don't know if I'm just filling in the blanks and making that up, but I feel like Fred played some card games or kind of casually knew Roger Staubach.
Yeah. Well, I ran into Roger and Everson Walls and Cliff Harris and all these guys at the aerobics center in Dallas.
Okay.
Because that guy I told you about earlier, Tom Wood, was a member, and it allowed me to get over, be over there sometime.
Yeah.
And I mean, the people you would see over there were insane.
Yeah.
But to meet Roger Staubach was a day, man, for me. And I'm not one of those guys that flips out over celebrities and all that. It was
Air Force, right? I mean, he had a military career and
Navy actually, but
Navy. Okay, sorry.
But he was, to meet him was a cool day.
Yeah.
It's like the day I met Greg Allman. I'm like, I'm an Allman Brothers guy, man. I mean, I didn't get to meet Dwayne, but Greg was up there for me.
Which one of those was one connected to Cher?
Greg.
Okay, yeah.
We all make mistakes, whatever. That was tacky.
All right, so maybe wrapping up, have you ever tried to quantify how much rubber you have slung, if you will, or I mean, is it right? I don't. I don't know if you measure right, in nail hole patches, you're probably measuring units or something, right?
Yeah.
But in section repairs or in certainly in the retread, it's probably by weight or tons or
Yeah.
is that what you'd look at?
Well, I mean, in the old days, an OTR retreader would buy 40,000 pounds at a time, and a guy as big as Purcell on a given week, I
Yeah.
remember sending 4 trucks to him.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have a clue. What's funny is I had a salesman I was working with the Myers guys one time, and we were going into this shop, and he told me, he said, "Hey, this guy hates patch rubber.
Yeah.
Probably hates you, and he hadn't even met him.
Yeah.
So don't talk to him about patches." He said, "I'm sorry. He buys from a competitor. How about that?"
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting in the room, the waiting room, waiting for this guy to get his valve stems or whatever he's getting, and the owner walks over. He said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm with him." "What do you do?" "I'm riding with him this week." "Well, what do you freaking do?" And I said, "I work for Patch Rubber." "Why in the heck would I ever buy from Patch Rubber?"
Yeah.
I said, "I don't know. You probably wouldn't." And I was just trying to put him off.
Yeah, right.
Long story short, I got an order from him, and he came out. We got in the car, and he said, How'd you do that?" And I said, "I don't know. Kind of a challenge, And he said, "It was $100 order. Why are you so happy?" And I said, "Because I dadgummit, I won.
You got an order.
I got the order.
Yeah.
It's not the size.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I convinced this guy that this was a good product for him, and he bought it."
And my guess is there was a follow-up order.
Yeah, he was a small guy. I
Right.
really probably would never know, but you don't sell bad products.
Right.
I mean,
No, correct.
it's very procedure sensitive. So if you do the right thing, I think there's a lot of products that work.
Yeah.
None any better than mine.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I remember at one point you and I sitting side by side at one of the OTR conferences, right? Which is, I always say, it's to me, I don't know all there is to know about the off-the-road industry, but I can get any answer from the relationships that I've made at that conference.
Agreed.
But there was a retread panel going on, of course, and they have a bunch of different companies or retreaders that were represented, and as each one would give up and give their little spiel, you kind of lean over, you're like 100% of their business, right?
I remember that.
100%. And then there was one guy that you weren't necessarily have responsibility, like 0%.
Yeah. Can't sell him nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, we can't win them all.
No, you can't win them all.
But that's why you get up tomorrow and hit it again.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a handful of people, right? I know, without being sappy, right? You've been an influence in my career. Not that we talk a ton, but you've always made introductions. We've traveled internationally, right? Some of the shows, and you've been a friend, right? More importantly, but are there some of the people that you haven't mentioned that have helped shape or form your storied career?
The general manager at Patch Rubber was Sam Curto, and Sam nearly became like a father to me.
Yeah.
I love the man. He passed away. I still try to keep up with his son-in-law and his wife, but Sam Curto was one. Of course, the people within the business, we had some great guys. Robbie Bushnell,
Right.
Mike Cradaville,
Yeah.
Dave Rimmer,
Yeah.
Rich Watts. Those guys were key in my. At one time I thought we owned it, man.
Yeah.
And it was those guys working, and I was the guy that got to get the blessing of the success because
Yeah.
they worked so hard for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all. They're friends right now, and they're all retired.
Yeah.
Well, except for Robbie, he may never retire. He's too tight.
Yeah.
But yeah, but they're all dear friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. And I won't ask the retire question for you, right? Because you already announced your birthday. I wasn't going to out you with that milestone. And maybe if people weren't listening, they'll have to either go back and say, "Shoot, did he say something?" But nonetheless, you're still at the top of your game and still love what you do, which I guess is the most important part.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed, and I can see it from here. We've discussed it, and I plan on keeping my finger in the pie a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is probably the last year that I'll be working, I guess, every day.
Foot on the gas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the gas pedal's not quite, it's not in a Maserati anymore. It's more like a 43 Studebaker or something.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady, man.
Yeah.
So things are good, and God is good. I'm a happy man.
You're blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Well, always a pleasure. Thanks to you and Patty for hosting our set today.
In a nippy
It's a little
Madison,
chilly.
Georgia morning.
It's a little chilly. It's 51, it says here. So
I don't believe it.
anyway, I've got layers. I was going to break out my cardigan sweater. I feel like I entered my 50s now, 51, so I feel like I can wear a cardigan. And
Got boots older than that, but we're not going to go there, so that's all right.
that's too funny. Anyway, all right. Well, I will. We'll wrap it up, and if there's anything else that you want to throw out there or say.
No, I mean, you're one of the people, like when I mentioned Ant and those guys, you're sort of customers. We're in the business, but I've always cared for you and Kelly and the kiddos. And I mean, I don't know them very well, but there's people like that are your friends.
I was going to say.
The Les Schwab people, for instance, they've just been so good to me for 40 years.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And-
Friendly face whenever
And we still
see each other.
when I go out there, all their retirees, they're like, "Hey, come on over, old man." I'm like, golly, I am that guy. I am that guy now. I'm 70 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a good run.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
I
all right.
appreciate your friendship,
I appreciate it as well. Thanks.
and I'm proud of you too. It's cool to see where you are.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, none of us, I think, handpicked this career, but the industry, it's been great. Met a lot of salt of the earth people, and so anyway, it's been a privilege for me as well.
Yeah, man.
I
I
still
agree.
got a little gas in the tank, as they say. So
Yeah, you do. You better.
yeah.
You got a family to provide for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, that's it for another episode of As the Tire Turns. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of As the Tire Turns podcast.